Have you ever wondered why your energy levels seem to plummet right after a seemingly healthy lunch, leaving you reaching for a sugary pick-me-up by mid-afternoon? This content is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for personal health concerns. It is a frustration shared by millions, yet few realize that these daily slumps are often the result of a delicate internal rhythm, the blood sugar balancing act. When your glucose levels spike and crash, it creates a physiological roller coaster that triggers intense cravings, irritability, and that persistent brain fog that can derail your entire day. We often mistake these signals for a lack of willpower, but evidence shows that the way your body processes fuel is dictated by the specific nutrients you choose to prioritize. Think of your metabolism as a high-performance engine. If you constantly feed it fast-burning, refined carbohydrates, you are essentially pouring lighter fluid into a fire. It burns bright for a moment, then vanishes, leaving you desperate for more fuel. Research suggests that by shifting the composition of your plate, you can stabilize these fluctuations and foster a more consistent, enduring sense of vitality. This isn't about restriction or adopting a joyless diet. It is about understanding how different food groups interact with your biology to maintain a steady internal environment. Many people struggle because the modern landscape of convenience foods is designed to keep our glucose levels in a state of constant flux. When we address this, we aren't just managing a number on a lab report. We are reclaiming our focus, our mood, and our long-term wellness. Medical professionals recommend focusing on the synergy between fiber, protein, and healthy fats as the foundational strategy for metabolic health. As we peel back the layers of how these components influence your chemistry, you will begin to see that the solution to those stubborn afternoon crashes is much simpler than you might have imagined. Now that we have established the importance of this metabolic rhythm, let's dive into the specific nutritional keys that help maintain that steady, calm energy throughout your busy day. To understand how we maintain that steady, calm energy, we must first look at the elegant balancing act happening inside your body every single second. Think of your bloodstream as a highway that needs a very specific, narrow amount of fuel circulating at all times. At the heart of this process are two primary hormones produced by your pancreas, insulin and glucagon. You can visualize insulin as a diligent keymaker. Without this key, sugar would simply linger in the blood, creating a state of imbalance. On the other side of this equation sits glucagon, the hormone that acts as a mobilizer. It is this constant, rhythmic dance between insulin and glucagon that maintains homeostasis, ensuring your brain and muscles have a reliable supply of power. However, not all fuel sources affect this rhythm in the same way. When you consume refined carbohydrates, your body processes them rapidly, leading to a sharp, sudden spike in blood glucose. Your pancreas must then work overtime to produce a large surge of insulin to bring those levels back down. Conversely, when you prioritize macronutrients like fiber, protein, and healthy fats, you are essentially changing the delivery speed of that fuel. Research suggests that these components act as a buffer, slowing the rate at which glucose enters your bloodstream. Studies indicate that this sustained, moderate release of energy is far more efficient for your metabolic machinery. Understanding this internal mechanics is empowering because it shifts your perspective from counting calories to managing the quality and composition of your fuel. Now that we have a clearer picture of how your internal chemistry responds to different fuel sources, we can begin to identify which specific food groups provide the most reliable support for your long-term metabolic health. However, knowing how to fuel your body is only half the equation. Think of your body as a high-precision engine. When the mechanisms that process energy begin to falter, even the cleanest fuel can lead to a sluggish performance. At the center of this challenge is insulin resistance. Over time, if those locks become jammed, your pancreas must work overtime, pumping out more insulin to force the doors open. Research suggests that this persistent state of high demand eventually exhausts the system, leading to the erratic spikes and crashes that leave you feeling drained. It is easy to focus solely on what is on our plates, but we cannot ignore the influence of our daily movement patterns. A sedentary lifestyle acts as a silent disruptor of glucose regulation. When we remain stationary for long periods, we effectively turn off the most efficient glucose disposal system we possess. Studies indicate that even light, consistent physical activity can significantly improve how your cells respond to insulin, acting as a natural buffer against the volatility of your blood sugar levels. Genetic predispositions play a significant part in how our bodies manage energy storage and processing. Some individuals are naturally more sensitive to carbohydrate intake, or perhaps possess a metabolic rate that is less forgiving of dietary inconsistencies. It is not about blaming your genetics. It is about recognizing your specific needs so you can provide the support your system requires to function optimally. Recognizing these factors is not meant to be overwhelming. By identifying these systemic hurdles, the resistance of your cells, the lack of muscle activation, and your inherent genetic profile, you gain the agency to design a strategy that actually works for your physiology. Now that we have mapped out the primary obstacles standing in the way of metabolic stability, we are ready to look at the specific nutritional interventions that can help you bypass these roadblocks and restore a sense of balance to your daily energy levels. However, before we dive into the specific foods that can stabilize your internal environment, we must first learn to speak the language of our own bodies. Your physiology is constantly broadcasting data about your metabolic health, but these signals are often subtle, masquerading as mere inconveniences of modern life. Consider the persistent, heavy fatigue that seems to settle in your bones by mid-afternoon. While many attribute this to a demanding schedule or a poor night's sleep, research suggests that recurring energy crashes are frequently tied to rapid glucose spikes followed by sharp, corrective drops. When your cells aren't receiving a steady stream of fuel, your internal systems struggle to maintain momentum, leaving you feeling as though you are operating in a persistent state of low battery mode. Have you noticed a persistent brain fog that makes simple decision-making feel like wading through thick water? Studies indicate that when glucose levels fluctuate wildly, the brain, which relies on a consistent supply of energy, can struggle to maintain focus and mental sharpness. This isn't necessarily a lapse in your productivity, it is your neurological system reacting to an unstable fuel source. Frequent, unquenchable thirst is a classic, physiological signal that your body is attempting to dilute excess glucose circulating in your bloodstream. If you find yourself reaching for water constantly throughout the day, it is worth observing whether this sensation aligns with your intake of refined carbohydrates or high-sugar meals. Perhaps most overlooked are the emotional shifts that occur in the wake of metabolic instability. When your brain perceives a deficit, it triggers a stress response, releasing hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to compensate. This chemical cascade can leave you feeling anxious or short-tempered, even when your external circumstances are perfectly calm. Recognizing these symptoms is not about pathologizing your daily experience, but rather cultivating a deeper awareness of the feedback loop between your diet and your internal equilibrium. Now that we have tuned our internal radar to recognize these vital red flags, we can begin to examine how specific, nutrient-dense interventions serve as the primary tools for smoothing out these peaks and valleys, guiding your body back toward a state of lasting, consistent vitality. With that foundation of awareness established, we move from identifying the problem to engineering the solution through the specific architecture of your plate. When we talk about stabilizing glucose, we aren't suggesting a restrictive list of forbidden items, but rather a strategic inclusion of components that act as physiological buffers. Consider fiber-rich vegetables as your first line of defense. Leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, and fibrous stalks act as a physical barrier in the digestive tract, slowing the rate at which carbohydrates are broken down into sugar and absorbed into your bloodstream. By filling half your plate with these volume-heavy, nutrient-dense staples, you create a viscous matrix that blunts the intensity of a glucose spike before it even begins. Evidence indicates that these fats slow gastric emptying, meaning the food you consume stays in the stomach for a longer duration. This mechanical delay ensures a steady, trickle feed of energy into your system rather than a sudden influx. When you pair this with lean proteins, such as wild-caught fish, legumes, or pasture-raised poultry, you further stimulate the release of satiety hormones that help regulate your metabolic response. Medical professionals often recommend opting for low-glycemic berries, like raspberries or blackberries, which offer the benefits of antioxidants and fiber without the concentrated sugar load found in more tropical varieties. However, the most transformative strategy isn't just what you eat, but the order in which you consume it. This is known as food sequencing. By creating a literal layer of fiber and fat in the stomach before the carbohydrates arrive, you effectively change the metabolic profile of the entire meal. It is a simple, evidence-backed adjustment that requires no extra cost or complex preparation, yet it fundamentally alters how your body processes fuel. As you begin to master these nutritional sequences, you will notice that your energy levels become less dependent on external stimulants and more reliant on a steady, internal rhythm you have cultivated. Now that we have refined the inputs, we must look at the hidden variables, the lifestyle habits and timing adjustments that determine how efficiently your body processes this energy throughout the rest of your day. Beyond those daily habits, we are entering an era of unprecedented clarity regarding our internal chemistry. Recent breakthroughs have shifted our focus from generic dietary advice toward the fascinating world of the gut microbiome. Scientists are discovering that the specific colonies of bacteria residing in your digestive tract act as gatekeepers for your glucose response. It turns out that two people can eat the exact same meal and experience vastly different blood sugar spikes, largely due to the unique microbial fingerprint they carry. By nurturing these internal ecosystems with diverse fibers and fermented foods, you aren't just feeding yourself, you are cultivating a biological environment that naturally stabilizes your energy. Simultaneously, the rise of continuous glucose monitoring, or CGM, has transformed metabolic health from a guessing game into a precise, personalized science. By wearing these sensors, individuals can now observe in real time how their body reacts to specific ingredients, stress levels, or even the sequence in which they consume their meals. We are moving away from the era of one-size-fits-all dieting and into a time where your own biology dictates the most effective path forward. To bring this all together, remember that metabolic health is not about perfection or restriction, but about understanding the unique dialogue between your food and your cells. Focus on prioritizing fiber-rich plants, pairing carbohydrates with healthy fats and proteins to dampen glucose spikes, and respecting the rhythm of your gut health. By utilizing modern insights like microbiome diversity and real-time monitoring, you can transition from simply eating to actively managing your vitality. Small, consistent shifts in how you construct your meals will ripple outward, improving your focus, your mood, and your long-term resilience. This content is for informational purposes only. Please consult a doctor for health concerns. Thank you for joining me on this journey toward a more steady and energized life.